50% of South Africans don't have that emergency fund. Two of the people that I follow who are the most well-known, there are others, is Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, and both of those say you must have an emergency fund available. They consider an emergency fund at least 3 months' salary. And what that works out to be is, the reason for that is, if you are retrenched, you don't have to go into debt to keep surviving until your next job. But also it means that if there is this emergency, whatever it is, whether it's a new tire that's not covered by insurance or whatever the problem is, you've got the money to pay for it from separate, pay separately from your actual everyday living expenses. So you're not going to dig into the living expenses. You're going to be able to have that money aside and then use it. So I am very proud to announce that after, like I said, 23 years in debt, I have finally, after 7 years, paid off one of my biggest debts. And I am on the way to paying off almost every single debt. I have 4 left out of 15. Now, that sounds a lot. Some of them were very small debts, I have to admit. And some of those debts, most people don't actually think about, and that's debts to family, people who've lent you money over the time and, who you need to pay back. And sadly, the last people to get paid back are often the family, and those are the ones who actually should be paid almost immediately, especially if you're going to need to lean on them again eventually. So obviously, I mean, when you think about it, think about who else is living in this vicious cycle of, just as you think you've paid off that last credit card payment or whatever it is, you suddenly have this huge expense that you've got to do again. And it's a very, very difficult cycle to be in, and it feels like it's never ending. And I think that's why people stay in debt so badly. And South Africans are in debt. We are very badly in debt. The majority of South Africans, I think they said something like 70% of South Africans owe money somewhere. Now, I will explain that there are different kinds of debt, but the first thing we need to understand is that most of us don't understand or don't have a clear picture of our actual financial health. Now, financial health basically means, where do I stand today, right this very second? How much do I owe? How much am I spending? How much am I getting in? And to have a clear picture. So if you say off the top of your head, okay, well, I've got my Edgars and my Truworths and my Woolworths account, and I've got this account. And then you suddenly take your bank statement and you'll suddenly say, hang on a second, what's this money from? Where did I pay that from? And it'll be, you've taken out and forgotten about it, insurance on your cell phone, that's not part of your household insurance. But it's only 12 Rand, so you forget. But 12 Rand adds up. So those are the kind of things that you need to understand when we look at debt. When we look at our financial health and our financial picture, we need to look at it as a whole, not just as what we feel we're doing. So often people will go, okay, well, you know what? I've got enough money every month. I'm not a problem. I can pay all my debts. But are you putting away money for that savings? Are you putting away money for that rainy day? And that's where we fall very short. And we're not alone. And it also doesn't matter where your financial income is coming from, whether you're a top earner. And in fact, the top earners are often more in debt than the lower earners, because the top earners are the ones who can get credit. So they've got their credit cards, which to me, and a credit card to me is, it's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. Basically, that credit card is going to put you in debt always. The other thing that we don't understand is, when we've got accounts, how much, if you've got a Woolworths credit card or a Woolworths store card, how much interest are you being charged on either one of those? And they are different. How much interest are you being charged? You sign your bond, you buy you sign your car lease, and they tell you the interest, but how many of us are actually paying attention to what that interest is? So, those are the kind of things that we need to know, because when you're paying back all those debt, you're actually paying back the interest and not canceling the debt. You may be paying a few $100 extra towards the debt, but it's not getting anywhere. And that's why housing bonds are like 20 years. And it also feels like it's just never ending. And those are the things that we need to understand before we can even set ourselves a budget. We need to know, what is our interest on everything? Do you have things like income protection? So great, I've got income protection on my Edgar's account, say, which means if I lose my job, they'll pay the balance that I owe. The problem with that is, in the small print, you have to lose your entire salary, not just have to take a cutback. And a lot of people are discovering that now when this COVID has come out and they've needed relief from how much they owe on all their accounts. So that's quite an important part to remember with your debt, is how much do you owe and how much are they charging you to give you that money. The first step to starting your budget, and this is your homework. So I'm going to share the screen with you. I'm going to share the PowerPoint presentation so that you can all see what it's like, and we'll talk through it that way. Okay, I'm not sure why it's, come on, why it's not playing. Okay. The first thing is this, is how healthy are your finances? What debt do you have? Now, one of the things that we learn from, we've always been taught is that when you work out what you earn, it's your net and not your, or your total, and before deductions. When you are drawing up a budget, it is the exact opposite. It is after deductions only. You need to know that it has to be after deductions, otherwise it's not going to work out, properly, and it's got to be guaranteed. So you cannot count in any overtime that you've earned, because that's not guaranteed work. Maybe you're earning this 100 Rand this month, and next month it's 300 Rand, but you're not going to get it in the month that you worked it. So it shouldn't go to this month's budget. It's next month's budget. It's next month's problem. So that's the thing. How many of us are giving, the guys who are packing our trolleys when we go to the store, the lady sitting on the corner of the street begging for money, or the guy with his bag wanting to help you empty out the rubbish from your car? Are you keeping track of how much you're giving there? It's a 5 Rand here, or 2 Rand there, or 10 Rand there. And in the end of the month, if you actually count all those pennies, so-called pennies, if you count them up, you can end up with having given away 500 Rand. Whereas if you've got a budget, you know that this is how much I have to give to the street guy, to the car guard, to anybody you like. It's fixed. And that's an important thing. So my homework for everybody is for you to spend the next at least week, but preferably 3 months, collecting every single till slip, plus every time you give somebody money that you are not going to get back, write it in a notebook, just any kind of notebook. Just keep a track of it, but be very specific of who you gave it to. The same as if you're going to spend cash. Don't just say there, you've spent cash. What was the cash spent on? Break it down into smaller sections. And that's where your envelope budgeting, which I'll explain at the end, is going to help a lot. So that's an important part to do. Now, our money relationships. The way we deal with money is taught to us, according to the experts, by the age of 5. Our money habits are set. Even though we're not actually spending any money or using any money, by the age of 5, we have learned our habits. And the way we learn those habits are, how do our parents discuss their finances? Do you see them arguing over finances all the time? Do the parents never discuss finances in front of the children, ever? And that's a point that a lot of people are discussing, that we should discuss the finances in front of the children to a certain extent. They need to understand that things cost money. Parents are reluctant to say, we can't afford it. Sorry, we just can't afford that sweet, or we can't afford that outing. or we can't afford those name brand clothes, but we don't. We're embarrassed. We don't want our child to be different to everybody else. But I promise those children are probably also having parents doing the same thing. They want their children to fit in. They don't want their children to be bullied. So they don't discuss that right now we haven't got the money, but let's say we want to buy you that name brand shoe. Let's put away the money. And when we've got the money, you'll get the shoe you want. It's an honest way to discuss with the children that eventually they will get what they want if you want to give it to them. But that things take time and must be saved. The other thing is for children. A lot of children get money as gifts from grandparents. And then we as the parents tell them what to do with their money. And what we tell them to do with the money is how they're going to deal with money as an adult. So if your child Granny gives 500 Rand, right? What do you do with that thing? Oh no, it has to go into a savings account, put it away for a later day. Kid turns 18 and they still haven't touched a penny of their birthday money. What they're going to learn is that any money I get, it's not actually mine, it's just got to go into a saving. And they don't use it properly. And when they do get access to that money, they either tend to spend all of it or they still do nothing, and they live into their adult life, into their bringing up children's the exact same way, that even though your money's in the bank, you can't use it. And one of the best ways that I've learned how to do it, and it takes a bit of practice, is when your child gets that money, take them get a bank account. Half the money, at least, goes into the savings account. Then the children understand that not all my money is to be spent immediately. It goes into a savings. The other half is yours. If you want to save more to buy something bigger, then do that. If you want to spend it immediately, it's yours to spend, but you just have to realize that that's the way it goes. And what we make a mistake of doing, and I've done it lots of times, is the kid will give me money and I will use my card. That's not the way to do it. The children need to learn to hand over the actual cash, to see it going into the till to get their whatever they've bought, whether it's sweets or clothing or whatever they've wanted to buy, some game or whatever. They need to physically touch the money and react with the money to get an understanding. Now, there's a very, very specific rule. A lot of people are using this, and it's called the 50-30-20 budget rule. And this is how our budgets should actually be ruled out. It doesn't work that way, in fact. I don't know how many of you have that 20% in savings. I know I don't. But it is the correct way. And it takes a long time if you're in debt now to get there. And that's where the Dave Ramsey's method will come in later to get you to this point. But 50% of your income needs to go to absolute needs. And that is to feed your family, to house your family, so whether it's rent or bond, your water and lights, your health insurance of some kind. So while I don't have medical aid, what we do have is health cover, which is health insurance. And it's a credit card where we put money in every month. And when you need to go to the doctor, they'll cover it and they'll take the excess out of your that card that you've used. So there are a few of those around, plus your gap cover if you can. And the gap cover only works when you're having surgery that isn't fully covered by your medical aid. It's where the doctors are not charging medical aid rates, they're charging 200% of the medical aids prepared to pay. So the gap cover will cover that. And then obviously car payments. Now, many years ago, Sanlam did a project called the 1 Rand Man, and then the next year they did the 1 Rand Family. And what both of those people learned, or those families learned, was the cars we drive are not necessarily the cars we need. They are the cars we want. Both of them discovered that they were driving these fancy cars because of the status it meant and because the position that they held in the job. And they both realized, so what happened with the 1 Rand experiment is they got their salary in 1 Rand coins. Obviously, big things like your bond and your car payments came off beforehand, but they had to pay everything in 1 Rand coins. It was a very interesting experiment. Stores and like Pick and Pay and the banks were not very happy to receive all these 1 Rand coins in payments for things like insurance, and instead of doing a debit order. But all of them learned the same lesson, is that we often buy stuff because of the status of it, not because we need it. So the moms with the large cars, yes, you need a large car, but do you need the top of the range large car, or is the bottom of the range with the exact same things, just not as fancy, quite acceptable? So if you need a 7-seater, look at the 7-seaters and don't buy the fanciest one with the TV and the gadgets and stuff. If that's not what's in your budget, then don't buy it. And that's where we all make the mistakes. We look at it and we go, okay, we can afford it. But we end up having debt that is almost as much as how much we need to cover our needs, our basic human needs, like the housing and food. The second one is the 30%. 30% is shopping. Your clothing accounts, or any clothing, even if you're buying from Pep, it doesn't make a difference. Pep, Ackermans, Jet, Woolworths, Edgar's, wherever you buy your clothing from, should not be more than 30%. Your takeout, and this is a big thing for working parents, is takeaways. Lots of moms and fathers too, when they come home from work, they're exhausted. They don't want to cook at all. So it's just easier to get through the drive-through and get takeout. That eats into every penny you have. Hobbies. My hobby used to be beading. I did jewelry. It cost me a fortune. I have, I'd say, a good 5,000 Rands worth of stuff here, still in its boxes, because I'm not doing the beading anymore. So what are your hobbies costing you? Are they a necessity? Is your hobby earning you any money? Or is it just sitting collecting dust? And every time you see something, you love it and you want to do it. Ladies, shoes are a big example. Beautiful pair of shoes. You love it, you buy it. Did you really actually need it? You know, and that's a big thing for everybody to learn. What are the hobbies? Look at your children's hobbies. How many sports are they doing? What else are they doing? What is it costing you every single month? Do they need to be doing 5 different things after school every day? Or, you know, are there things that the kids actually are doing because they have to, because, well, kind of expected of them, or things that they want to do? And if they want to do it, then it's worth looking into the money. But if it's things that, well, they have to do, like cricket or whatever, if it's compulsory, obviously different. If it's something they feel they're supposed to be doing, then that's it. And gym fees are like that as well. Do you absolutely have to go to a gym? How many of us have managed these last 6 months or 4 months without going to gym? How many of you have bought a gym contract and only been once or twice? So those are the things we need to think about. And there are penalties for canceling those. So you need to look into them carefully. You either need to use it or lose it. Now, the most important rule when setting up your budget. This is iron cast. It cannot change. It is not negotiable. It doesn't matter. Your income must always be greater than or equal to your expenses. It cannot be any other way. Not if you want to get out of debt, and not if you want to live comfortably. And I'm not telling you to give up stuff that you love. You need to take your time doing this budget, and it is going to take time. My first time that I wrote my budget up, it took me nearly a week. There was just so much. Things that I didn't even know we had. debts that I didn't even know about, expenses that were coming off as a debit order that I'd forgotten about. Those kind of things are very important. So take your time, make it quiet. If you've got older children, why not let them help you, work out, but do it together. If you have a partner, do it with your partner. This is not a one-person job. A budget is a group effort if you want it to work. You can't have one member of the household budgeting and everybody else spending as if they feel like there's no tomorrow. So to start your budget, you are going to need 3-month statements. And that's why I said to you, collect your till slips. You need 3 months of statements because those are going to show you all the things you forgot. You're going to need your till slips, and you're going to break those till slips down into categories, because you might say let's say go to Pick and Pay. You've bought groceries, you've bought cleaning products, you've bought toiletries, and you've bought clothing. Those need to be separated and added up into separate categories. So that's why it's very important to keep your till slips always. And now comes the hard part, is the trimming. You've drawn up your budget and your income is nowhere near your expenses. In fact, it's way less. And remember, this is guaranteed income. This is not your overtime, and this is after taxes. Where do you start trimming? So that's where your 50-30-20 rule comes in. You look at the 30% stuff and you say, okay, I haven't been to gym in months. What would it cost me to cancel my contract? Or how much is it going to cost me? Can I start going to gym? Will I start going to gym? If you think you're going to start, get a friend who's also going and make yourselves accountable to each other. Force each other to go to gym. Don't waste the money. Otherwise, pay the cancellation fee. It's 100 Rand, it's 100 Rand gone. But it's 100 Rand that isn't going to come off in 3 months' time when your gym contract is 350 Rand, let's say. That's 350 Rand you didn't have before. So those are things that you need to start looking at. Here's the trimming. Sorry, coffee lovers. For those of you who are buying a cup of coffee every morning, a cappuccino, a latte, or just a plain coffee, that's about averaging 27 Rand every single time you buy a cup of coffee. Now, if you're a daily coffee lover, it's a lot of money adding up. If you're a weekly coffee lover, it's not so bad, or so you think. So these things add up. And coffee and cold drinks, they are quite expensive. So imagine you go to work, and it was one of the habits I had. There's a guy who used to come around the hospital with his trolley. For those who've been to Linksfield, you'll know him. With his trolley, with his sweets and his cold drinks and his waters and stuff. And every day I would think, okay, I'm going to buy a bottle of water. I'm going to be healthy as much as I want the cold drink. Okay, the bottle of water costs more than the cold drink. But why couldn't I bring water from home with low-cal flavoring in it, instead of buying the fizzy water that costs twice as much? And that's where we're having to learn to adapt. So I'm not saying give it up. Never. I could never do that. I'm saying take one of those expenses every day. So you buy lunch every day, or you buy your coffee every day. So just take one coffee a week. Put that one coffee towards your debt. And that's where you start trimming. Until your income is greater than your expenses, cut that out. You'll go back to it when you've got your budget worked out. It's not forever. Right. Now, here's the big one. In every country, to have credit score, you must have debt. So there is no way to live debt-free. However, there are good debts and there are bad debts. So the first thing you want to do is to check your credit score. Now, there are a lot of places. Old Mutual has one. This Direct Access was the first one that popped up when I searched for it. but Old Mutual has one. I saw there were about 4 or 5 different places that were offering free credit score ratings and telling you what they are. And my one sort of came up, good credit rating, higher than the average, which was quite shocking for me because, like I said, the last few years we've been in debt. And in fact, in 2018, there were times where we would skip a payments months at a time. And that does affect your payments. So to have debt or to get a decent credit rating, you must owe money. However, you can never, ever skip a payment. The minute you skip a payment or you don't pay the full amount, you are not going to have a good credit rating. Now, if you want to buy a new house or a new car, they look at your credit rating. And your credit rating needs to be above 700. The average South African is 510. That is a very poor score. And that is because most of us live in debt. And that is bad. So what are we talking about, bad debt and good debt? Now, our debt is different to America. So when you listen to American people speaking about debt, they tell you, don't have student loans, don't have this loan, don't have that loan. In South Africa, a student loan is actually a good debt because it's a lower interest. So your bond, your car repayment, and your student loans are the 3 good debts that you should have, or that are acceptable to have, let's put it this way, not that you should have. The best one to have is a house because the interest fees are much lower, and they also, the more you pay off, the more money you have available, and you don't have to reapply. You already have that money there, the debt. So, but please don't use it just for anything. Use it when you need it. So it's an important thing to know that we are slightly different to America in the fact that having student debt is our lowest rates, whereas in the States, it's one of the highest interest rates. So student debt is a really bad idea. But paying off your student loans, and the reason the student debt is good is because you pay the interest only while you're a student. Once you get a job and you're qualified, then you start paying back the capital. So it gives you time to build that up. As long as you are funding your interest, you're paying that interest, you're going to be okay. And that is the same with a car or with a house. The cars are not the greatest ones because besides the interest, you do have to pay back some of the capital. And then buying that car on, I'm not sure what they call it, where you've got to give the car back after 3 years and take another car, that is probably the worst one to do. The other thing that I've learned about buying a car is never buy a new car. You buy a demo model, because as soon as you drive the car off the lot, the value of your car drops by 15%. And that's quite a lot of money on most of these cars. So we're talking about having debt and that. So this is how your credit score will rate, okay? The average South African, like I said, is between 550 and 600. So you'll get deals on certain things, but you cannot get a house or a car or any big loan at all because you haven't been paying your debts. And what I know, somebody once told me the best debt to have was your credit card. You buy everything on your credit card and then you pay the full amount back. Now that only works if you have that money to pay back, because most credit cards are 60 days interest free. So if you can pay the full amount within 60 days of purchasing, that's fantastic. Your credit rating will be brilliant, but it doesn't always work. Not all of us can do that. Not all of us are guaranteed work every week. 650 score plus, okay, and the score rating in South Africa is out of 800. You can get a loan on anything, and you will find, which is quite funny, is that the more you owe and the worse, the more debt you're in, the more you're going to get people phoning you from debt relief and debt review and debt rescue and loan companies and things like that. And it's very, very tempting to do that. I did it. And as I said, it took us 7 years to pay it off. it's not worth it. It really is not worth it. So for those who know Dave Ramsey, you will know what's called debt snowball. Now, debt snowball is exactly the way, so we don't have snowballs in South Africa, but debt snowball works this way. You start with a small amount and you build it up. And I'm going to explain how you pay it off in the next slide. I wrote an article called Getting Out of Debt One Coffee at a Time. And that's literally how you can get out of debt. 1 cup of coffee a month towards your debt will get you out of debt. Now, financial experts disagree on the last thing, my last statement, which is you pay off the lowest debt first rather than the highest interest first. A lot of people say, no, you must pay the debt that has the highest interest. Now, the reason I say the lowest amount is because it gives us encouragement. If you have a debt of 10,000 Rand or you have a debt of 500 Rand, if you pay that 500 Rand off, you can tick off one debt and you feel good. You go, okay, well, that's the first debt gone. Let's move on to the next one. And that's how it works. If you're spending years paying off 10,000 Rand, you're just going to get discouraged and you're going to give up. And that's it's a big motivation for South Africans. So here's a little sample. Okay, so I've put in 6 debts here with totals in. So the first debt, they're paying off in the first 3 months, so from 2019, 1350. Takes 3 payments to get there, so it's 1 cup of coffee extra, remember, into that debt. They're paying that off, and now it's 0. 1 debt is gone. Took 3 months by paying off a little bit extra, and it's gone. They didn't miss any payments, as you can see across the screen. They didn't miss any payments for any of the previous months. They kept paying what they had to. But as soon as this first debt was paid off, they took that 1350, added it to their debt, their 650, and they're now paying 2,000 Rand off, which means in 4 months, they will have paid that debt. Those 4 months are up. They move that 2,000 Rand, they add it to the debt of the third one, the 1730, and they're now paying 4,000. But because they've been paying off this debt over time, it has gotten lower, which means it'll only take them 3 months. Now they've got 4,000 Rand. They add it to debt number 4, which they've been paying every month faithfully, but they don't put the whole amount. They've taken 5,000 Rand. Okay, I must admit I did round it down just to make my life easier. You're now paying off 5,000 Rand, but because that 1,000 has been coming off every month, the debt is less, and it's only going to take an extra 2 months. Now we haven't even finished a year and 4 debts are paid off. Done. The next debt we're going to look at is their bigger debts. You can see they're much bigger, but these are going to be, this will be a loan probably, and with this low amount, it's going to be your credit card, because your credit card will always charge you the lowest amount they can to get just their interest back. Yes, it's going to take a while, but you're adding that 5,000 Rand to the 2,464 Rand that they've been paying off all this time. And now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, and your loan is paid off. Instead of having to carry that on, and that would probably be about double, maybe even triple the amount of time. So it'd probably take another full year if you kept it at that. And now your credit card. And chances are, if you're like me, you've had that credit card for donkey's years, and you've been paying more or less the same amount every month. You've continued to pay it, you haven't missed any debt, but you've now got this plus this to pay off your credit card. And all of a sudden, within 2 years, you are debt-free. And that is a snowball. So the smaller amount, just keep adding it, previous one to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. And that's how it's going to work. And eventually, like I said, 2 years down the line, you have paid off 6 debts. That's a lot of debts to pay off in just 2 years. Now, my favorite topic. For those who know me, I am a meal planner. So what does dinner have to do with getting out of debt? What does dinner have to do with my budget? It actually has everything to do with it. Clients that I've had in the past have done shopping. One lady we worked out, sometimes she was at the store twice a day, spending 300-400 Rand every time she walked in. Now that's great if you've got that. But what about the rest of us that don't have that? So how often are you meant to shop? Now, my kids often tease me about COVID. I have always been paranoid about social distancing, about washing hands. And as soon as online shopping became a thing in South Africa, I started. I've been shopping online for my groceries for 5 years now. And it has made the biggest difference to my grocery bill. I am feeding almost 8 people every night. My bill dropped by 20% in the first 4 months, but there is a catch to that. And that's, you've got to be very, very, very strict on yourself. So it dropped by 20% in the first 4 months. And in the last 5 years, it actually has only gone up by 1%. And that's huge when there are 8 of us. And remember, they're all growing. I now am feeding adults. My youngest is 16, so it's not children that I'm feeding. And this does include, for people with young children, the diapers, the nappies, the wipes, all the baby stuff, the 100 clothes that they always need, those kind of things. So the first thing you need to do is work out, how often are you going to the shops? Now, with macro coming online as well, I love doing comparison shopping in my pajamas at 10 o'clock at night. There are no checkout times. There's no closing times. There's no queue. There's no tired teller wanting to go home or needing to catch her taxi. There's nothing. I can sit and take my time, and I go between the 2 sites. And whoever's cheapest, that's where I get my shopping from. I do that with all my non-perishables, so my tins, my pastas, things like that. Those are the kind of things I get. For those who get food parcels, you need to add that amount of food into your grocery budget. Count it in as if you spent it, because you've got the food. It must be counted in. How many of you remember to take shopping bags with you? Okay. So Checkers has come up with a clever idea. As you can see on the bottom of my screen, I have the different prices for the packets. Between 55 and 70 cents a packet every time you go shopping. Okay, that's an extra 1 Rand at least on every shop that you didn't need. Checkers have come up with these bags. These bags, they pay you to reuse them. Every time you go to Checkers with your bag, they swipe it through the till and they give you 50 cents off your shopping. It's worth it. 50 cents off your shopping. I think the bag costs about 3 Rand. I can't remember. Mine are starting to get a bit old now. So that's a huge savings. And that's a way to earn money when you shop. 50% off your shopping is big. Remember your loyalty programs, your reward cards. I know a lot of people go, oh, for what? I don't want them knowing my stuff. But those things are going to count. In fact, occasionally I've been able to double up on rewards. Sorry. Your grocery bill is a quarter of your income. That is most people. And most South Africans earn apparently about 6,000 Rand a month. That is the average salary in South Africa. No, wait, sorry, I lied. That's what we spend on groceries for a family of 4, 6,000 Rand a month. The average South African, I don't know where they're working, but they're earning 20,000 Rand a month. And that's what we're spending. So 6,000 of that 20,000 is your food, your cleaning products, your toiletries, all of that. Now, when do you shop? If you're working and you go shopping on a Sunday and you've got to take your children with you, or on the weekend, whatever, the children have to come with you, I will guarantee you, you spend an extra 10% over and above what you would have spent if you'd done it while you weren't tired. If you go shopping after work and you've got to like quickly shop and rush home, once again, there's your 10%, because you buy with your emotions. You're tired, you're looking for something, this looks good, that looks good, you buy a whole lot of stuff, you get home and you realize, this is going to take me 2 hours to cook, and I'm just too tired. It goes into the fridge, and the end result is you're going to toss that. You now paid for that product twice, once when you bought it, and once when you threw it away. So this is where my meal planning comes in for me, and the online shopping. Your first rule of shopping is you do not go when you are tired, when you are in a hurry, or when you are hungry. And that includes the fact if you've got to take children with, okay? Make sure they've eaten before they've gone, make sure they've had their nap. It makes shopping a little bit more difficult because you've got to time it right, or you've got to wait for somebody to wake up. But that's why the online shopping is still your best. And the Checkers now, for me, is I will often wake up at 7 o'clock and go, okay, well, today I need my fresh vegetables. And I will send in my SMS or my order to the Checkers app. And by lunchtime, I will have whatever I needed for the day. Nice, quick, easy, and your loyalty points will work there. This is a sample of what I call a meal plan. Okay, this is only dinner, but it does tell me what I'm going to need for the week. And what it allows me to do is shop in my home cupboard first. Falafel, pita, and salad. Well, I've got pita bread in the freezer. Tick that off for my shopping list. I don't need to buy it. Falafel. Okay, how much is it to buy ready-made? And how much is it to go and buy a packet that I can make at home? The powdered stuff, and it is available. I think it's called Out something, and they are very, very nice. And a salad. What's my lettuce look like? Do I have enough tomatoes? Am I growing, if you're lucky enough to have a green thumb? Are you growing your own fruit and vegetables? Spaghetti bolognese. I will tell you, last night we didn't have spaghetti bolognese. What we did have was burger patties in the freezer, which I really didn't want. So I turned those into a meatloaf. I mashed them up. I added a can of baked beans, and I mashed it, so the kids didn't even see that. My onion, my garlic, my flavoring. I put it into a loaf tin. I made millipap, and when the meatloaf was 3/4 cooked, I put my millipap on top as a layer and put it back in the oven to bake, and it came out like a cottage pie. But it cost a quarter of what your cottage pie or your shepherd's pie would have cooked. The next thing is tuna lasagna. Now, for me, that is a staple in my cupboard. When I'm doing my monthly shopping, it's tins of tuna, it's all the different kinds of pasta so that I'm never short of pasta, and it's cans of tomato and onion mix because they make the fantastic base for any tomato sauce. Perfect. Now I want to make, for Thursday night, a roast chicken with mashed potatoes and peas. One of my big things in my house is I have to check the freezer for the peas. My daughters, thankfully, love peas and will often go to the freezer in the middle of the day for a snack, and that's their snack. So they will take peas out and they will microwave them to eat. So then I now know I need to buy 4 bags of peas for a month. How much potato do I have? And then your chicken, when you're doing your meat order at the beginning of the month. Buy as much as you can once so that you don't have to keep going back to the shop. And then for the Jewish ladies, we know Friday night is always something special, and that is planned in advance. Now, I do this entire meal plan, I do for a whole month. It took a while to learn to do it, but I don't only do dinner. I do breakfast, lunch, and supper. And when the kids are at school, that includes the school lunch. So that helps you show, you know what you've got. You've got lemon and herb spice, then you don't have to buy more. You've got couscous in the fridge or in the cupboard. Well, if you don't have couscous, buy rice. If you've got rice in your cupboard, problem solved. The cobbler is usually canned fruit. I know they're not the healthiest, but as an emergency dessert, they work perfectly. So that's my meal plan. And that will save you a lot of money because you're only buying what you need. Couponing in South Africa. That is one of my biggest things. We do have coupons. We don't have coupons the way America does. We do not have physical coupons, unfortunately. A lot of people would use them more if we did, but we've got these. You've got your Checkers Extra Savings. You've got your Pick and Pay Smart Shop. Now, Spar has got two different kinds. So sometimes you get lucky and you can double. If you buy what's on the Spar Rewards, which is your national one, a product that's been advertised for sale there, and you use your local rewards club card at the same time, you get double. You earn extra points. Why not using it? Then the Woohoo deals, which is this last bottom one. This is Unilever products. Now it's a little bit more difficult because not all the tellers at all the shops know how to use it. So I start my shop when they start ringing up ingredients. I go, you will need to call a supervisor. Before we've even started, they've been warned. This is points or money off on Unilever products. And I think it was an accident, but the one time I managed to pay 10 Rand for a 2-kilo packet of Sunlight washing powder. They had it on the Woohoo deals at 15 Rand off, and on the Pick and Pay shelf, there was on special as well, and you got extra points with your Smart Shopper. So it was a win all the way around. They don't always have a lot of products, and sometimes they've got really odd products on. I have to admit, buying ice creams and stuff with coupons, if you've got a lot of ice cream eaters, go for it. The only shops available through Woohoo, though, unfortunately, are Pick and Pay, Dis-Chem, Checkers, and Spar. However, I have found that Spar often doesn't have the correct package size. So with the Woohoo deals, you've got to be very careful with your package sizes and that you get the right one. Then this, Snap and Save. This is a hard one to use, but it is your best one to earn money back. So you want to save money for your Christmas shopping, or for the ladies for your Pesach or for your Yontif shopping. This is the one you need. You can use it anywhere. When you go shopping, you choose the items that they have on special, and it'll tell you the percentage that you are going to get back. Now, some of them you will get a percentage of it back, and others it will tell you that it is already included in the price. The disadvantage with this one is you have to have a physical till slip. You cannot use online shopping at all. It doesn't work and it doesn't accept it. So what happens is you do your shopping, you tick off all the products that you have bought, and then you need to take a photo of your till slip. Don't throw your till slip away because sometimes the photo doesn't come out properly. It does show you how to do this. The money is then put into an e-wallet. And when you are ready to draw the money, you just give them the bank details. It takes about a week for them to process, and they process it on a Thursday. You get that cash into your bank account. Nothing could be easier. So these are your coupons for South Africa. When you're looking at specials to go shopping, please be careful that you look that it's not going to cost you more in petrol to go get your special than the special is going to cost you. And I am not a big fan of Black Friday. I find too many people buy stuff they don't actually need just because the price is right, unless you're absolutely going to do it. The American Black Friday works very differently to South Africa, although we are catching on. And Black Friday should be used to buy big ticket items like your dishwasher, your tumble dryer, your washing machine, your microwave, a new fridge, a new stove. That's when you should be using it. not to buy your everyday stuff. My favorite, envelopes aren't just for letters. We do envelope budgeting, and it has made a huge difference. At the beginning of the month, I draw out a fixed amount of cash. I then divide it into envelopes. If you are on prepaid electricity, this is going to be a big save for you, because you're going to draw the amount of electricity that you think you're going to buy for the month. Sadly, when the money is over, you cannot borrow from another envelope. But how many times have we heard, if we're working or something, I can't get to work, I haven't got petrol. Well, now you do, because what we do here at home is the first one is off the card. As soon as we get paid, everybody's cars gets filled, and then we put into an envelope enough petrol to last the month. So 3 cars, we fill it up on average, depending on who's driving. My daughter's car is once a week, so we put enough for that. The rest of us, it's maybe once every 2 weeks, and we've put away that. Your cell phone, if you've got a prepaid cell phone, put away the money for your cell phone so you're never going to run out. Now, in the picture, they've got their mortgage, which is your rent or your thing, or your bond. Now, those are usually quite high sums. You don't want that kind of cash lying around. That should be a debit order. And the same as the car payment should be a debit order. But everything else should go in there. We work out how much fresh fruit and vegetables I'm going to need for the month. Now, for this, you will have to go into a shop. You cannot use the online shopping. It's not going to work. So we do 5 bottles of milk, 5 breads. I'm going to buy 2 bags of apples, say, and a couple of other things. And that's how much it's going to be for my month. Now, this has helped me more recently with my daughter doing consumers at school, because all of a sudden in the middle of the month, you've got to go buy products for them to make at school. That's not in my budget. That was nowhere near planned. And this is now in the envelope, and it works well. It also works well for pocket money. And I will explain the concept of pocket money at the end. So remember, if you've used all the money in the envelope, you know for next month that you might need to add more to the envelope. If you have got money left over, you can either keep it and use it for the next month, or you take it out and put it into your savings, whichever way you want to do it. But you cannot borrow from one envelope to the other. When it's done, it's done. You do need discipline because the cash is lying there. So what I do is, if I'm going to the shops for stuff, I will only take the exact amount that I think I'm going to need. And that's something else. And then the till slip and the change go back into the envelope for next time. Right, start them young. By the way, piggy banks are for grown-ups too. I have a money box next to my bed, and all my 20 cents and 10-cent pieces go in there. Doesn't matter what I bought, that's what it does. End of the year, I will open it up, and there it goes. Pocket money. There is a big discussion about pocket money. So our belief here is no pocket money. I'm already feeding you. Your clothes are getting washed. You've got a roof over your head. You've got food. You've got whatever you need. You don't need pocket money. If there's something specific you want, you've got to earn it. And I learned this once again off the internet. How to earn the extra money. You have a list of chores. It doesn't matter if you've got a domestic worker. Really, it doesn't. Now, children are spoilt enough. There are certain things that need to be done by the members of the household. And your children can earn the money. If they're old enough to wash your car, why are you paying a valet to wash the car? There's your kids. Give them the money and let them wash your car. The younger they are, obviously, the less perfect the job is going to be. But there's so many other things. Loading and unloading a dishwasher if you've got a dishwasher. Packing away dishes. Even carrying dishes from their bedrooms, if you let them eat in their rooms, to the sink for little kids can become a money earner. So over and above your general cleaning, if a child comes to you and says, can I wash the windows? Have a mandatory amount for those windows. They want to water the garden, they want to mow the lawn, have a mandatory value for it. They're going to take the dog for a walk. If it's something you do automatically anyway, then it's not really something you're going to pay them for. But if your dog has a big garden to play out and nobody really walks the dog, give them some money towards walking the dog. It is good for the dog, it's good for the child. So a lot of those things are important stuff. The earning money works better, obviously, if there is no domestic help, but there are still things like setting the table every night. Although that for us is a fixed chore, everybody has a turn to set the table. I'm doing the cooking. I don't set, I don't clear up. My job is done. It's the kitchen. So all of those things are there. Then you've got older children. And this is a big debate, and a lot of people don't agree with it. But it's how I grew up. And I must admit, it was a pleasant surprise when I got married. My father always made us pay 10% of whatever we earned. It didn't matter what you earned. If you were earning 100 Rand, you gave him your 10%. If you were earning 1,000 Rand, you gave him your 10%. That money was put into a savings account. And when I got married, my father gave me the money back. So if you don't need the money towards living expenses, put it away as a gift for when they graduate varsity, when they get married, whatever big event they want. If they want to go away, you know, somewhere special for whatever reason, that's their money to use as they want. They didn't know about it. It's a surprise savings for them. And it's a nice reward. Let's put it that way. And that's what we did. And that's what we do here as well, is we don't need the money from the children, then it will be put into a savings account. The children don't need to know about the savings account, although mine do know that it's there. One of them has already got an idea of what she's going to be spending it on when she finishes matric next year. So those are important things. And they are all over the internet. There are lots of ideas on chores, age-appropriate chores that you can get the children to earn the extra money from. You've got a lot of clutter in your house? Well, there's something to pay the kids. You give them a drawer or a cupboard and allow them to do it. And they can get paid for it. We give the value to the money that the children earn. So remember, the younger the children, the less the money is going to be, because the value means nothing to them. But make sure it's enough to buy a sweet or a something, so that when they do have this money, they can say, okay, I would like to go get this. And then there's enough there. And remember, when they're really motivated, they will do a lot more work. Baking, cooking, all sorts of stuff. It really is helpful. Okay, I'm going to take some questions and answers now. Tracy will give you this link. If anybody wants some extra advice or more information, this is the link where you can get a 20-minute free session from me just to help you get started. So
thank you, Adrienne.
Answer any questions.
We will share that link with the participants after the session. Before we start with questions and answers, can I just launch the poll quickly just for people to see?
Absolutely. Please do.
Thank you. Do you see it on the screen? One moment.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll leave it up for about 30 seconds.
Okay, I'm going to answer Monica. Monica, I wish I'd known this when my children were little too. But now we've all got adults and we're stuck. So hopefully we'll manage to teach them to do better with their children. Okay.
So are there any questions for Adrienne? I will unmute you all.
Any tips you guys want to share that you've learned?
Can I ask, what about charity? Where does that fit into budgets?
So for me, it fits into my into the 50%, because to me that